Hello, everyone. I am Ricardo. You probably will notice by my English. I am from south of Brazil, so I'm sorry for my English here. If I make any mistakes, please be patient. And I'm here today to, start a project that we have been thinking about for a while. And this is the Wisenetix podcast. This is a podcast that, has the objective of creating a hub, a platform for people that make the ag and livestock industries happen. So here we're going to be inviting guests that are business, technical, and marketing leaders in the industry to come over, share their ideas, their thoughts, their visions about the world, about the business, about the industry, but also about themselves. We want to highlight the profiles of the people that make this industry happen. As I mentioned, my name is Ricardo 𝗘𝗲𝗶𝗲𝘁. Actually, in Portuguese would be 𝗘𝘅𝗽𝗲𝗿𝗂, and a little bit on my background. I am a graphic designer. I won a gold medal in 2013 in the world's largest skills competition, and since then I've been adventuring myself in education and communication business. And today I am the business development at Wisenetix. And if you don't know Wisenetix, basically we are one of the main players when it comes to content production in the ag industry. Today is the first episode, and I have here with me Joe Loughmiller. One question that I always will ask for people that come here is that, is this your first time in a podcast? I know the answer already. So Joe, is this your first time in a podcast?
Yeah. No, thanks, Ricardo. This obviously is not, as you've alluded to. I am the host of a podcast series called the Pig Microbiome Podcast. And honestly, Ricardo, that's how you and I got to know each other. You have helped us as we have put that podcast together and continue to be a valuable partner with us in that project. So thank you. But yeah, we've done several episodes over the last couple of years. It was something that started during the pandemic and while everybody was at home, and has continued since then, and has proven to me, at least, to be a valuable experience to help me deepen my understanding of not only the pig microbiome and research in that, but also how that connects with other people who are trying to find relevant content and not necessarily always just a sales pitch. So it's been fun.
Yes. New ways of communication, right? People don't want to be sold. No, that's great. Joe, I would love to have a brief introduction from your side. Joe and I were just chatting here before this recording, and he was giving me some great tips about like how should I try to be a better host. And it's good because I am quite anxious right now, but Joe's gonna help me here. He has a lot of good content, and I'm sure that you guys are gonna enjoy a lot what he has to share with us today. So Joe, for us to start, a brief introduction for yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about Joe Loughmiller?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Joe Loughmiller, Swine Technical Services Manager for North America for Phileo by Lesaffre. Lesaffre is a fermentation company that is primary in yeast fermentation, and we are branching into also bacterial fermentation with the acquisition of the 𝗘𝘅𝗽𝗲𝗁 company as part of our portfolio now. I have been with the Lesaffre organization since early 2019. One of the things, honestly, that attracted me to Lesaffre was not only the people and the products that we are offering to the marketplace, but I was looking at the time for a company that had a lot of stability to it. And a company like Lesaffre, that's a family-owned company since its founding in the 1850s, headquartered globally in France, and still family-owned. and they know something about resilience and about stability. They're in a part of France, in northeast France, they've had about 4 or 5 major armies march across their doorstep in the last century, and yet they know how to take the long view to things. And I really appreciated that, and they were that way during the pandemic, and it's a good company to work for. Prior to that, I'd spent some time in a couple of different premix companies, blending companies that work directly with pork producers in North America and globally, both Devonish Nutrition as well as Previmi, which is part of Cargill now. I'd spent some time with each of those companies, and those were really valuable experiences to understand the dynamics of the premix blending industry and of the starter feed business and of manufacturing and the constraints in those markets and with those customers, as well as both the large and small pork production customers that they work with. I then spent some time with a couple of other ingredient supply companies, both domestically as well as globally, primarily doing some help with they and their customers in Asia, different parts of Asia. And so I've had the chance to travel and see production around the world. And it's been really, really interesting to see how things are similar and yet how they're different around the world. So that's kind of how I ended up at Phileo and really some of my background. We've lived here in southern Minnesota in the United States and have lived here for the better part of 22 years.
Nice. Well, looks like you know the industry pretty well. So a few big brands there, big companies. I'm adventuring myself for about 1.5 years in this industry. I was really hooked, not only about by the industry, but by Wisenetix. By the way, if you never heard about Wisenetix, we completely understand. We are formerly Swine. That's how we were called, because we were focused on swine. Right now, we are expanding to other species, trying to bring more knowledge and content to more professionals within the livestock and the ag business in general. Joe, thanks a lot for this introduction. It's great to see and understand a little bit of your path so far. And the next question I have here for you is, what are your top 3 achievements and what did you learn from those experiences?
That's an interesting question. Top 3 achievements. I would say, rather than top 3 achievements, I'd say top 3 experiences as far as learning experiences. And certainly one of those has been the experience of working in an environment where it's not only technical services, but it's technical sales, and to do that effectively, it really relates to understanding the customer, what the customer values, and then trying to understand how what you are offering or what you could offer matches what they value. I had some experiences early on in my life with that I've honestly continued to build on. I spent a couple of years early on in my life, before I even had finished college, working as a full-time missionary for my church. And while that's not necessarily directly sales related, many of the things that you do with building relationships and understanding what people value and trying to find ways that you can be helpful in their lives directly relates to what we're doing as sales. So I would say that's one experience. That was a really formative experience in my life, in understanding that and then learning how that applies, because so much of that applies to what I do today. I would say another formative experience in my life was, going through graduate school, and one of the things that I enjoyed about I don't know that I enjoyed it at the time, but I certainly value it today, was I had some really good professors at Kansas State who helped, who cared enough about me to help knock off some of the rough edges of me and of my personality, and to help me be a better person and to be more aware of those around me and the influence, the effect of my actions and my attitudes on those around me. And those are lessons I carry with me to this day. And then probably another, if I'm looking at top 3 experiences, is the experience of my time working for those premix companies and the people within those premix companies. Some really good people at both organizations. I think of, my time with Dr. Blaine Hansen, who's retired now, and him helping me understand how large accounts value technology and some of the things that they're looking for. And then when we have those conversations with them, with those large accounts, and honestly, a lot of what they value is similar to what medium-sized or smaller accounts value, maybe a bit differently, but some of it's similar. And so it's learning how to approach those people and share what we have in a way that they can understand the value of what we're sharing with them. And then I would say that also many of the individuals that I worked with at Pravimi and at Cargill, Dr. Ken Bryant and Charles Schiniger, and a variety of those people there, just really, really valuable experiences in how they treated people, how they managed people, how they treated people with respect, even in times where the people they were working with needed correction, and they were able to do so in a way that was respectful to the organization and the organization's values, but also respectful to the individual as well. Pretty neat experiences.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that. If you stop to think about these experiences you brought, all of them, and I would say that most of our good experiences in life, not every experiences, but most of the most relevant ones, they are all related to people, right? They are people-centered. So you talked about like your experience working with customers and how to, try to bring the best value to them. Your experiences in college, not only in your graduation, not only because of the content you're learning, but also to the professors you're relating, and in the companies you worked in, and how the people made all the difference. I always like to think about this. I'm really happy that I had the chance to travel, over the world. And today I see that the best experiences that I had were not, they were not because I was in a specific place, but because of the people that I crossed with. So this is really nice to see. And I really like the first experience when you mentioned like the whole thing about customers. Sometimes I work, I learned a lot about marketing, and it's funny like how every time more we were talking about customer-centered, strategies, about how important it is to understand and to please your customer. For me, there's a little bit of this that sometimes we're just changing the words that we use, but at the end it was always about who are the people you're serving, and if you're serving them well. It's not, of course you need to have a good product, you need to have to provide a good service, but if you put people first, if you think about them, you'll probably get in the right path, to satisfy them, to provide a good value to them. Joe, so as I mentioned before, my background is in design, visual design and communication, graphic design. And if I had to ask my parents to describe what I do, they would probably, have a hard time. So that's my next question to you. How would your parents describe what you do?
Well, so my mother passed away several years ago, so it'd be hard to ask her. But when I talked to my father, no, that's okay. That's fine. It's been long enough ago. We can both chuckle about it. But my father, if he was going to characterize it, would say that I work in sales. He understands I have a technical degree and there's some technical value in what I'm trying to do. But I think when he hears technical service, he hears technical sales. because he's always referring to that I'm in sales and I'm selling something. And he doesn't see that necessarily badly. He's a farmer by trade, but he has also dabbled in used farm equipment and used construction equipment sales on the side, and so he understands a little bit of the sales trade and what we're trying to do, but that would be how he would characterize it. Oh, Joe works in animal nutrition sales, and I guess I do, but it feels a little simple compared to maybe to how I see the nuances of my job.
Yeah, well, at least he gets a clue about what you do. So design sometimes is harder to explain, but no, that's great. This question helps us to get to our next section of this conversation, where we would like to talk more about, business and marketing points of view, and how you see the world. So how you see business. Sorry. So just during your introduction, you were talking about like how you, besides your work, how you're also the host to the Pig Microbiome Podcast. And that's related to my next question here. In your opinion, what are the main changes in marketing since digital media and internet became part of people's lives, like everyday lives? And how do you think companies should incorporate these things, the digital world, the internet, to their strategies?
Yeah, so how have things changed with the advent of digital media? So the content marketing, we're talking about content-based marketing. The marketing that is done in our industry today is, it tends to be very specific because the account or the prospective customer base is relatively small and continues to consolidate a little bit each year. But one of the things that has changed is the rise of, things like the Wisenetix podcast, the rise of the podcast, the technical content of those podcasts, the Pig Microbiome Podcast. But more so than that, even the rise of things like, I know Marcio has done things, and I'm going to get the name of it, Swine Talks, or that annual conference that he does, and is able to use speakers from around the globe at a really reasonable rate, because most of them are able to speak like you and I are from our home countries without the added cost and burden of travel. And then it becomes a global audience. And so maybe that's one of the big things that has changed, is the global audience and the reach of the information that we share. I think one of the things that has really changed in this global and digital environment is the ability to do technical transfers. So I think of customers that we have who they don't buy any product in North America. They work as international consultants, whether it's in Latin America or Central and Eastern Europe, and yet the work that we do and the recommendations that we make in North America affect my colleagues in other parts of the world that are in different regions and have different reporting structures, and they have their own objectives, goals, and recommendations for our product use. And yet what we do here, if I'm not careful, what we do here can be very disruptive to what they're trying to do in other parts of the world. And so, when we talk about, the digital marketing, it just expanding the reach is a huge one, that now everything is global. There's a global reach to things. I think recently hearing about a colleague of mine who was in Australia and was asked about a publication and the digital, the digital reach of that publication and the presentation behind it, for some work that we had done here that, 2 decades ago when I came out of graduate school, that individual in Australia, they might have heard about it, but it never would have had the impact that it had just last year because of this global reach. I think those are probably the two big things, and is the ability to reach a broader audience with less at much lower cost, and the rapid dissemination of information around the globe, where audiences are much more sophisticated. They have exposure to a wider range of ideas and concepts, and so they become more selective about what they choose to implement, choose to believe, and choose to implement, versus what we tell them.
Perfect. Yeah, that's true. Like, I completely agree. More specifically with like the possibility of having people from anywhere in the world being part of your processes, and even about your content, and how that raises the bar, right? You're bringing
Yeah.
people with a great knowledge that you would not have access, and now everything is so easy and connected. And again, like, of course, internet is not something new. Even podcasts, they are not new, but for me, it seems like sometimes we're still learning. Like, everything changes. I think technology changes faster than people lots of times are able to follow up with. So although this is not a brand new thing, I still think we're learning a lot with this. But I really like this perspective about like the connection and having this great professionals. You mentioned like Swine Talks, the event that we organize every year, and how it's possible to get those great people in the same room, even though each one is in a different country. Yeah, I think that has a great impact in terms, more specifically about our possibility to share the content, our possibility to improve the content, to have access to these articles and the work that you have written 10 or 20 years ago that would never have reached those people.
So in addition to that makes it very important for us as content providers, to use that term, and just as technical service people, to really deeply understand our products and our product applications, because there are differences. We have differences in our product application based upon where you're at in the world, differences in raw materials used, differences in diet formulation economics, differences in live production economics, distribution channels, all of those things. And so it becomes critical for us around the globe to understand those differences, and to help our customer in Australia understand why a recommendation in North America may or may not fit what they're doing in Australia. It raises the bar for all of us.
Yeah, and it creates the opportunity to have, well, it's not an opportunity, but it raises the risks of bad applications if you're talking about a product like yours. I'm not a specialist in the industry. I'm learning a lot in the past 1 year and a half. But again, my background is more in marketing. But just in this year that I've been, learning more about content, being in touch with professionals, I see that there's a lot of differences in terms of industries. If you look to Europe and United States, like, each of those industries, they have their own profile and ways of working. Even legislation plays a role here, right? Things that are allowed, or ways of doing things in the US, they're not the same maybe in France, where your company is based, for example. So that's also like, okay, how do you manage to have the best content, but in a way that people also understand the differences and the shades, so they can bring that content and adapt, not just apply that that new knowledge to their reality, but being able to adapt that so it fits their reality.
I think that's a great point. And I think about some different feed additives that we have. So in the United States, there's different probiotics that can be used. That the regulatory requirements for using probiotics in feed in the United States is dramatically different than it is in Western Europe, for example. And so you have to have that understanding just from an application point of view. And and then going back to your point, people tend to be a little bit slower than the technology. I think the pandemic, one of the silver linings of the pandemic is it taught all of us how to be more electronically connected than we were before, and be a little more efficient with our time and more balanced, so that we have we have the ability to balance the need for a face-to-face visit with versus an electronic visit and a technology and information transfer via either method.
Perfect. No, yeah, it's I work completely online, so Wisenetix here at Wisenetix, we don't have headquarters. Like I'm all day in meetings, meeting new people in different parts of the world. So it's great, and I think, as you mentioned, pandemics has helped us a lot developing, helped us a lot for us to develop those skills in terms of communication, digital, all of that. But still, I don't know, for me, sometimes I feel like it's great, but I don't think, like, maybe someday we will be able to replace the human touch and the in-person relationship, but I don't see this really as a close thing, at least to me. Again, internet, the whole connection thing, the whole digital world. Today, just so we have an idea, and you that are listening to us, here at Wisenetix, we work in some type of metaverse. We have our digital office where we can like walk with our avatars and talk to people, and that has increased a lot our efficiency because things move much faster. Instead of writing an email and waiting for an answer, you just visit someone's desk, you ask what you need to ask, and you solve the problem. So it gets much closer to a real office, but at the same time, the human touch, being present, there's a lot more happening in a communication, in a conversation, than the words. And for me, at least today, with the technology we have and the accessibility, and honestly, I'm not looking forward to this fully digital world where we interact only by distance. But I mean, there's so much happening in terms of our movement, the way we do things that is not verbal. So yeah, I don't think, although I see technology going that way, I don't think we will ever find something that will replace human touch 100%. So
I strongly agree because of just what you said. There is value in that face-to-face interaction, in the person-to-person connection that you lose that part electronically. There's so much that happens in nonverbal communication and some of those subtle things that you miss. And so you're exactly right. There has to be a balance. And I guess what I see that people are willing to acknowledge that maybe we had the balance skewed too far one direction pre-pandemic, and maybe there's a way to do things more efficiently without losing that connection.
Yeah. So I went to the Park Expo, the World Park Expo in Iowa for the first time this year, and it was really funny not funny, but it was incredible to see like how people are thirsty for human interaction. Like, the whole feeling in the event, people, it felt like people were waiting for that for decades. Like,
yeah,
they just wanted, to have it. They were doing business. But it's not like when you do from your home. Yeah, it was really
but
good.
They were just glad to be around people and to see other people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and have barbecue also. So
yeah,
that's harder
absolutely.
to have
absolutely.
with your laptop, right? And yeah, you can have some fake one, not the real one. Joe, I have one question here for you, which is, we were just talking about, digital media, and you brought the content marketing. And that's my next question. Like, what are your thoughts on content marketing and how you see its difference if compared to traditional marketing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I would take it even a step further. So traditional marketing, I think of that as the advertising and the brand awareness, and this is who we are, and this is who the company is, and aren't we good people, and you should buy from us because we're good people with good products, and you like us. and then of course content marketing builds on that with the, not only do you like us, but we're technically relevant, and the offerings that we have, that we're helping to make the world a better place. We're helping to improve the science behind everybody's products. We're contributing to that. And oh, by the way, as we build the science behind everybody's products, we're also building the science behind our products. And can't you see that our products are technically relevant? And there continues to be justification for their place in the market. And of course, then you go in and you build all of that, and you qualify your prospects with all of that technical relevance, and they come back and say, yeah, this is good. Let's talk some more. And of course, then you go in and have those face-to-face conversations and try and find a mutually agreeable solution to the problem that everybody acknowledges. And I think where I see things in our marketplace, again, as I mentioned, relatively small prospective customer base, is the next step is I guess what they call account-based marketing. And it's almost where you're marketing to, if you look at the industry, at our industry, at the U.S. pork industry, for just as an example, and you could do this anywhere else in the globe, we've got probably 40 or 50 potential customers that would occupy 70% of the market space for, potential for pigs to be fed. And so then you start saying, okay, well, of those, not everybody's going to do business with us. We'd love it if everyone would do business with us, but we recognize not everyone will. So how do we identify those that want to work with us? And then you start working on those, and that account-based marketing then becomes almost a marketing approach, customer by customer. And how I would approach Cargill as a large conglomerate premix manufacturer is going to be different than how I would approach, a large integrated pork system. And I've had some of them, for example. So then it becomes a marketing thing of one. Some of these accounts want to be very involved in how we design our research trials. I've had large systems come to me and say, hey, we like what you're doing on research, but we'd really appreciate if you'd share with us what you're doing before you design the trials, and let us help you design the trials so that the information that you're developing is increasingly relevant for us. And hopefully then it's relevant for others. But that, I guess that's what I see things going to, even from content marketing to this account-based marketing, where because the accounts are so large and so influential, we have a limited number of people and a limited amount of time. We have to be very selective and very targeted in how we approach, less of a shotgun approach and more of a very close aim, rifled approach to our marketing.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I love that. And it's funny because right now we're in the livestock business, and first thing is that there are no rules like content marketing must be done like this or marketing should be done like this. Each market has their own reality and their own truth. And I really see what you're seeing. I can really understand now. If you talked about this, like, I don't know, 1.5 years ago with me, I would not be able to visualize that. But yeah, today we are talking about a very specific niche, right? With the swine industry, and not only the swine industry, other livestock industries also. And another thing that you brought that I think it makes more sense every day is that we would love to work with everyone, right? To be able to provide a service to everyone. And that might not be the reality for the livestock business, or it might. I'm not there on the field to have the perfect perception about it. But here at Wisenetix, at least, we are learning that we also need to understand better who would be our ideal customer, like the right customer. Sometimes, yes, you want to work with everyone, you want to be all around, and depending on how the client does things, and what is their objective. Hey, maybe they're not a suitable client for us, and that's fine. There's space for everyone. There are other possibilities of them to approach their problems, their digital and communication problems. So it's just as you summarize. It's not about a shotgun where you want to hit everything you can. It's about targeting the right people and having the right service to your ideal customer, to the customers that fit your profile.
I would offer on top of that's the hard part about it. I mean, I can throw out the acronyms of the ABM, the account-based marketing, and all of these things. But the hard part about it is developing, and this is that person-to-person interaction, developing the relationship with the customer that you can ask those questions and understand why do they do business with you versus someone else, and learn why they value what you're offering them. And that's the real trick of it, is to, even being able to do that in a formal marketing format is trying to develop that deep understanding of the customers. And it takes time and it takes focused effort. But yeah, exactly that. If we're gonna really help our customers, we've got to have that understanding.
Yeah. My vision today, I would say the word is trust, right? Why? Of course, it's not only one feature or one thing that makes companies do business with you. But first, when we think about digital content marketing, I think the content marketing basically is a validation. Okay, when you get to a conversation with a prospect and they have learned more about you, they have validated your expertise, you are in a different level already. You're much more closer to the business, to be able to do business with this company, than you were if you were just another company knocking on their door and trying to sell them something. So I think that's a step of validation for them. And then I would bring this second level would be the relationship, what you just said, like, do they trust you? And of course, it's not in your most of the business, I would say, we should not look to one-time sales if you want to, especially if you have 40 to 50 clients maximum. So if you're looking for a long-term and successful company brand, you have to have in mind that this trust that you're creating, you need to deliver. If you don't deliver, it's that's a great thing. Well, at least that I the way I like to see is like, it's not only about sales. Of course, if you don't sell, your business is done. Like, that's how things work. But in order to have clients with you, it's all about the delivery also. So making that trust become also trustful relationship, actually. Make it extended, make it go with time, and stay really resilient with your client.
I think that's exactly right. And it's, again, it goes back to being authentic. You talk about trust and people being more selective about who and what they trust today in the marketplace is exactly right. That's, in my mind, that's part of the reason why marketing as a broad term and as a broad field sometimes gets criticism that I think is a little bit justified. There's a poster that I like that shows the picture of a sandcastle that's up in the air on a very narrow base of sand, and the caption below it says marketing, and then underneath that it says making it look good now is more important than providing adequate support later. And historically, that's a little bit about some of the approaches, and I think that when we come back to this with this account-based marketing, when you do account-based marketing right, it's about making sure that your solution fits today and tomorrow, for that customer. We're not selling in my industry, we're not selling industrial air conditioners that, it's one sale every 30 years and then providing some sales support after that. It's an ongoing relationship. And so if we're just making it look good today, we're not going to last very long.
Perfect. Joe, my next question here, actually, it's really related to that. I almost know the answer already, but do you think that producing and sharing technical content is important for a brand positioning? And why do you think that?
I would say yes and no to that at the same time. And the reason that I say that is, yes, of course, technical content's very important. But every company has technical content or wants you to believe that they have technical content. And so again, it's coming back to having that relationship of trust with the customers, where the customers know you, they know your company, and they say, okay, you're producing content that's relevant to us and that we can see those repeatable results in our facilities. It's not just producing technical content that we say is relevant. The customer has to come back and say, yeah, this makes sense. And when I applied in my feed or at my farm, that what you're telling me I see, that the value is there.
Perfect. Joe, you in the beginning of our conversation, you brought the name of a lot of people that have worked with us, professors. So I'd like to ask you, who has been your most important professional mentor? Who's the person that, made you change and brought you the most value?
There's been a lot of them, but I would say that probably one of the most important has been one of the first ones, and that would, I don't mean any, I don't mean anything negative towards any of the others at Kansas State within the swine team there, but I would say that Dr. Mike 𝗘𝗲𝗃, was probably one who was the most influential early on. And I appreciate, Dr. Nelson and Dr. Goodband and Dr. Dreetz and all of the others for all of the things that they did to help me. But one of the things that Mike told me at a crucial moment in my program, he really helped me. He looked at me and said quite bluntly, Joe, I think you have the worst time management skills of anyone in our program. And then we proceeded to have about a 30-minute conversation about why he felt that way. And it was done in a way where he wasn't focused on himself. He was focused on me as a person and what this meant for me long term, and helped me understand some of those perspectives. And I've shared this with him a time or two, and so this won't be new for him either. But that was really meaningful to me. That caused me a lot of reflection over the next several weeks and helped me to significantly change my outlook and my behavior, and it was tremendously meaningful for me for the rest of my life, both personally and professionally. And there's been many, many others after that, but that's one of the first ones where I went, I can either choose to change my direction, or I can choose to keep doing it the way I'm doing it. And Mike really helped me see that and to see the value of making a change. So I've always appreciated that.
That's nice. Again, I'm repeating again, I'm 1.5 years in this industry, and Mike 𝗘𝗃𝗃 is definitely, he doesn't know me, but well, I have heard about him a lot. I know this guy is a beast. He's a reference in the industry. Marcio also always talks about him and how great he is, not only in the professional side and all the knowledge he has, but also how he helps people, and just as you mentioned, how he helps people improving themselves, getting to the next level.
Mike is one of those rare people who makes everybody else around him better just by interacting with him, and he's a neat guy.
That's great, Joe. So now we are getting to not exactly the end of our conversation, but We learn a little bit about you. We learn more about your vision about business and marketing and how things are done in the industry. And to close this session, I would like to listen to you from you. Like, what's one lesson that your job has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their lives?
Oh, one lesson my job has taught me that everyone should learn. First of all, people do business with people. And we've talked a little bit about that. We've talked about this as it relates to marketing. But that's really, really important, is that building those personal relationships is critical. And helping people know that you have integrity, and that if they bring an issue to you, you're going to try and resolve it. I think of an issue we had within Phileo a few years ago, where customers struggled because they felt like what they were being told didn't match the experience that they were having. And so we worked hard to resolve that, and we were able to successfully resolve that. But it came at personal cost to some of my colleagues because of that. And so it was something I'm glad that we were able to successfully bridge. But it's really, really important that people can trust what you say. And when you say you're going to do something, that you do it. And that if you don't do it, if you drop the ball, that you honestly and humbly acknowledge that and admit that, yeah, you know what, I didn't hold up my end of the bargain here. Again, it's authenticity and honesty and being trustworthy, which is, one of my favorite definitions of trustworthy is being honest and competent. Anybody can be an honest idiot. It's being honest and knowing what you're being honest about, or knowing the material that you're trying to be honest about. So that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, and that goes back to what Mike was trying to share with me. It was part of that time management. And his comment was, if you're going to promise to do something by a time, then you should deliver on that. And if you're not going to deliver on that, then you should acknowledge it, and acknowledge it early, not acknowledge it late. Don't force others to have to come to you.
Perfect. That's a great. We could, the word I would use for that would say accountability, right? One of the words plus honesty, and being able to be humble and understand when you didn't deliver what you had to, but at least trying to do it and understanding your mistake. And Wisenetix here, we are basically a young company with lots of young people, and this is one of the things that we try to bring as a part of our culture. You got to be accountable for what you're responsible for. You say when you're gonna do it, even if it's not the best result. Like go after the results you need. Be responsible for what you need to do. So it's a main one. It's a main thing I'd say for basically every company that wants to success. So Joe, next question here. Now, it's not necessarily related to business or marketing. I'd like you to recommend to our audience 3 books that you think are good books, or that changed your mind, that you have learned a lot with. So 3 books you would recommend to our audience, and if you could also tell us why you're recommending those books.
Yeah, so 3 books I would recommend. The first 2 were really easy. The third one I had to think about for a while, and I'm still not sure that I've got it fully defined. But the first one is a book by the Arbinger Institute called Leadership and Self-Deception. It goes exactly along with what you were talking about with accountability and being accountable to those around us, and being accountable for the right reasons, how we treat people, our way of being, how we see others around us. All of that is tied up in that book. I would say that the next book that I was put onto is similar in a vein, but it's a little bit different, is a book called Crucial Conversations. And it's probably been a couple of decades ago that I was put onto that book by a colleague. But it's really, really helpful because crucial conversations. So you have leadership and self-deception, and you've identified all the areas where maybe you have some room for improvement, or the way you interact with others could use improvement, and where you could be a better leader. And then you have to know how to talk to people in a way that invites cooperation and acknowledges your accountability and invites their accountability. And so that's where crucial conversations comes into place, is how do you have that conversation with someone, whether it's a subordinate, whether it's a leader, whether it's a coworker, whether it's your boss, whatever it is, but have that conversation in a way where you can clearly explain your perspectives, and do so in a way where it invites them to explain their perspectives, and both of you come away with a much greater understanding of the issue and of your perspectives on the issue, so that resolution can be achieved. So those are two of the books that I lean towards very quickly. And then I would say a third book that has come to mind as I think about three really influential books in my life, and it's been a number of years since I was first introduced to it, but the book Tuesdays with Maury, and it's about a journalist for the Detroit Free Press, a newspaper, and going back to visit one of his old journalism professors. And by that time, that professor was dying from ALS. And so he would go visit him every Tuesday, and the journey that he went on as he went through that process of visiting every Tuesday with his professor, and those life lessons. So there's obviously a number of books out there that anyone could mention, but those are three that really come to mind for me.
That's great. I'm curious about the second one, Crucial Conversations. That sounds like a good one. That's something that I didn't read the book, so I don't know it. But by the way you summarized it, that's something that I try to keep in mind, like not only about conversations, but most about conversations and human interaction is that like, what is the output that I expect from an interaction, right? Sometimes you're really pissed because something happened and it was not aligned with your expectations. So like, okay, so if your idea is to change that, maybe just screaming with people and telling them why they're wrong will not change your situation. So if you want them to change the way they are doing things with you, or delivering things as you expected, if they are a colleague or even in a relationship, try to think about your approach, how you're going to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to let them know you're not happy, but you're not changing your situation. So I'm curious about this one. I'm gonna add to my list. I don't know if it's about that, but that's the first thing that it came to my mind.
Yeah, I would say that's it exactly. And a great example they use in that book is, especially when you're talking to someone in a position of authority over you. Imagine that you're a nurse in an operating room, and the surgeon is about to amputate the wrong foot, and it's the wrong foot, but the surgeon is someone who has a very high opinion of themselves, and they don't seek a lot of input from the rest of the team. How do you speak up in a way that the surgeon will listen to you before they make a life-altering mistake? And that's some of the things that the book gives you tools where you can speak very effectively when the stakes are both high and low, and it's helpful.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's added to my list now. Joe, thanks a lot. That's it for today. I honestly didn't prefer a closing script here, but I'd like to say thanks for your participation, for having the courage to be the first one interviewed by me in the Wisenetix podcast. This is a project that me, Marcio, and the whole team, we have been planning and thinking about for a while. So thanks for helping us to make it a reality. And last thing for listeners, if they want to find you online, do you have any social media or places where they could find you?
Yeah, if they want to find our podcast, the easiest thing to do is to look at to do a search for the Pig Microbiome Podcast. Easy enough to find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, variety of applications. I'm also, if you need to reach me, Phileo by Lesaffre, and is a good place to Google, and I'm easy enough to find through there as well. If they need to email me, I'm sure you can share with them my email address as needed. So
perfect. Not gonna scream out loud here. I'll be selective. Joe, thanks again. For everyone that listened to the first episode, thanks for keeping with us. This is a project that we want to make it last. So if you work in the industry, if you think your story is valuable to be shared, if you have ideas and thoughts about how we do business in the industry, how we do communication, how we do marketing, just let us know. You can email me at 𝗘𝗅𝗽𝗲𝗁@swinet.com. This email is going to change, so depending on when you're listening it, that's not going to be my domain anymore, but right now it's 𝗘𝗅𝗽𝗲𝗁@swinet.com. Let us know. We would be more than happy to have more people with us. Okay, so thank you and see you in the next episode.